This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's episode 1148, and it's the Relevant Podcast. Here in Orlando, I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and joining me from Loverland, Virginia, it's Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
From Nashville, he's finally back. Artist, producer, mogul, Derek Miner.
What up? I missed y'all.
Likewise, man.
And from LA, you know from Social Club Misfits, it's Marty.
What's up?
Hey, man. Derek, I didn't know you were actually going to make it today because last night in the group chat, you casually mentioned you're flying to Austin today. So I was like, this morning when I got to work, I was like, is Derek going to be on the show today? Did he tell us he's going to Austin?
Sheesh.
So we're glad you're here. You're going to South by, I assume, right?
Yeah. What's the plan there?
Man, we got an R&B show with one of our artists, Byron Jawan. So he's doing it. Susan Carroll. So some really dope R&B artists. And then South by is a dope place to meet new people.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely feel like if you're looking for like new producers, new singers, new people that are on the come up, South by is a dope place to go because everybody's kind of going to the showcase and they're going there for that point. So I'm always looking for new producers and new writers and stuff. So we'll make it a week out of it.
Is there a Christian showcase this year? Hosted by Kirk Franklin?
I don't know.
They used to do that for like every year for like 10 years. Kirk Franklin would host a hip hop and R&B Christian show. It was like 2 miles away from South by Southwest. It was a whole. Yeah.
But it wasn't official, right? It wasn't official South by.
It wasn't.
Because the years I went, like there would be like a South by worship showcase.
Yeah.
And you show up, and it's like not a South by showcase.
But to be honest, though, I feel like, this is a little inside baseball for people who haven't been to South by, but to go to the official stuff, you got to there's all these levels of badges. It's a very complicated badge system with different colors and they're not cool badges. They're lanyards. They're massive, like lanyards. And based on the color, you can get in at different times. You have access. It's very complicated. You need like a whole decoder book. But the great thing, to Cameron's point, is like, I'm going to go head over to the Axe Body Spray House and go see John Legend. and instead of a lanyard, I get free deodorant out of the.
Yeah. Jesse this literally happened. Like Jesse was in interviews all afternoon one year. And when I go to the festival or to South by or whatever, I'm like Jesse would be working or Tyler would be working and hustling and writing cover stories and all this stuff. And I'd just be popping around to like free promo events. I really went to like the whatever Axe deodorant body spray lounge. The lounge. And it's like somebody's DJing and whatever. And I'm just getting free stuff in my backpack. It was great.
That actually played against South by because I know. People got tired of the corporate thing. They were like, yo, this is just like, I knew South by at one season was cooked when there was a stage that was made like a Doritos vending machine. I was like, South by.
I remember that installation.
South by is cooked. It lost it. Yeah, it was bad, bro. It was like, bro, it was massive. Now, first off, I'll say it was a dope concept, but that's not South by. Right. South by is supposed to be for the independent artists to kind of get light and show. So what happened, I think during the pandemic, they took a couple L's and they're trying to change it back to more of the indie grind. So I'm not saying they're not going to have any corporate sponsorships, but they're making them a little less flamboyant and egregious than they have in the past. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, I think agree to disagree here. I can go to an indie show in my own town. Okay. They have it all the time. I want to go into the Hard Rock Hotel, into the Old Spice Lounge, where I'm given
you on this.
a free Samsung branded beverage right in my hand.
And Joe Jonas is randomly DJing. Why is Joe Jonas DJing the lounge?
This is the opposite.
Exactly. I'll take it. And
we're
then
on corporate mentality.
I love it.
Then give me a swag bag with the big Kia tote bag, and I walk around with a Kia tote bag the rest of the time. I don't care. That sounds at this point more. Maybe it's just, I don't know if it's an age thing or just like you get burned out of going to grimy little.
I just want the free stuff, the Reebok shoes that you shoot a basketball for.
I've had multiple different eras of South by experiences. I've done the indie, we're at every showcase, just having fun discovering. And then I've done like full lanyard, doing the seminars on digital media and the changes in the industry and all that stuff. Mind blowing. I mean, it was like that stuff was incredible. I was like, oh, there's a real thing going on. When I thought for a couple of years it was just like, come hang out and listen to cool music. Yeah. It was like, oh no, there's like game changing like sessions happening. So anyway, so like then I'm like, oh, I'm going to go for that reason. And then every year I forget. Like since COVID, it sneaks up on me. Like I haven't bought my ticket, so I would be there right now.
Yeah, I'd be at the Tide detergent stage right now, getting free pods, getting all the swag.
What's the wildest show? What's the wildest corporate event you've been? I think the wildest 2 corporate events I went to was one sponsored by Reebok and Yahoo. And it was the concert was Travis Scott sponsored by Yahoo. And in the middle, as soon as the concert started, he goes, get all those Yahoo people. Cause it's like a corporate party, but at the same time, there were fans. He's like, get all the Yahoo people away. This is a Travis Scott show. No. He's like crapping on the sponsor. That was one of my favorite moments. But then the Reebok.
That's crazy.
They had one where like you shoot a basketball, you win a pair of shoes. And I remember we all won shoes and they were the worst, like highlighter green shoes, whatever. But all the stuff you come home with was the best. It was just the best. Swag.
Jesse, do you remember the Ryan Adams? So I'm not a Ryan Adams fan, but I was with guys who wanted to see Ryan Adams perform. And it was at a corporate hotel ballroom thing at South by. And it was like free bar in the back. So everybody's milling around the back, getting their free drinks and stuff.
It's very awkward.
And there's this big empty ballroom. And then there's some people like over in the front. And again, everybody's wearing lanyards. This is just a 6 p.m. post-conference, happy hour. Ryan Adams was having none of it. He was angry. He was like calling out the crowd for not paying attention to his music.
Because it wasn't a crowd. They were just playing in like a meeting room, just where a band terrible. In the corner. I've been to enough traditional concerts for to last a lifetime. Trust me on that. I don't mind free stuff in a comfortable setting. If I want
seeing Ryan Adams meltdown in a air-conditioned hotel ballroom.
Craft cheese stage.
I think he threw his jacket at someone in the crowd, and the person wouldn't like put it on, and then ran off.
They were like, "Yeah!" He's like, "This is getting worse. Why are you clapping?" Yeah,
that was way more entertaining.
So bad.
I can go see him on tour.
The funniest one I went to was Vince Staples at South by.
What happened?
Vince had zero energy. Like he literally just stood in the same place, and it was South by kids, so they're paying a whole lot of money for these badges to see Vince Staples, and it was in this real place. And he was like, he did it pretty much. He said it just like a crib. He was like, "Look, if y'all don't like what the F I'm doing, y'all can get the F out of here." Like just cussed out the crowd. Like I was like, "Yo, all right, Vince."
I think the most awkward one, it was Jack Antonoff of Bleachers, and he's Taylor Swift's he's a producer and songwriter. They was at an after show sponsored by the Hard Rock Hotel. And I don't know if you were there, Cameron, but I was using the men's room beforehand. And he comes running in there and uses the bathroom as fast as he can and washes his hands and running out because he didn't have an artist bathroom. He just had to use the public restroom in the hallway. And it's Jack Antonoff. And I was like, hey, man, literally not a word, just sprinted back and then had to go perform. But that's the experience I'm looking for. Weird
Classic
corporate
New Yorker,
ones.
too.
The best South by, I've seen a bunch of great South by shows, but the most memorable one where I was in heaven was the last night of South by, which is a weird night because people have left. It was like the Sunday night, and it was a Bud Light event. And so everything's Bud Light. They took over a venue, Bud Light. And it was the Roots, and they were just hosting a night of Roots and Friends. And so the Roots was the house band, and they're just bringing up Brandy and Method Man and Andre 3000 just all night long.
Missed it. Yeah,
and it was like, it was one of those moments where I'm like, I cannot believe I'm experiencing this. And I'm like 6 feet from the stage, in this packed room.
And instead, I had to see Dej Loaf do what she did. I got stuck at that show.
Cameron, about that show, I left early because I had I had to be at the airport at 4 in the morning.
Yeah, Jesse stood in line for 3 hours with me and then left.
Oh, man.
But then in airport security, Questlove was right behind me. And I was like, oh, my buddy said you put on a good show. He's like, yeah, I just left the venue. And this was at
it was a crazy night. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. I remember Derek, I had only met, Derek had been to the Relevant office one time, and another person interviewed him, so I didn't get to spend much time with him. Obviously, I knew him as an artist, but we hadn't really met. And then I'm in the lobby, where you check in to get your badge at South by, a year or two later. and I see Derek standing there in this like mob of people, but I don't know him well enough to just walk up confidently and be like, "Hey, Derek," like he would know who I am. So I go off to the side of the lobby and I text one of our mutual friends, like, "Is Derek Minor at South by right now?" And he's like, "Yeah, he's there." I'm like, "Okay, that's him." All right. So then I went up and said, "Hey," so that was kind of the beginning
of
all
that, but I remember us seeing each other there.
Yeah.
We saw each other there and at that Illuminati meeting. I don't remember.
Yeah. I remember that one at before the ritual. Yeah. I remember.
Hey, we gotta chill out.
I can't do the Montana one this year.
It's a lot of press going on about rituals and stuff like that. People might take this serious. No, we did not meet at an Illuminati meeting. It was a
wink.
joke.
Wink.
Move the show along. Not allowed to talk about it. All right. Well, we have a great show in store for you today. Coming up later, we talk to Eugene Cho. He was a pastor. He's a faith leader. He's a social justice, humanitarian aid leader now. We actually talked to him about what's happening this year, about heated conversations Christians are having, about politics, things like that. He's the author of Thou Shalt Not Be a Jerk, a Christian's Guide to Engaging Politics. You do not want to miss that conversation. Also, at the end of the show, we have your feedback, but stay tuned right now. Up next, Emily joins us for Relevant Buzz.
I know some people gonna look at me crazy and I'm like, for what? Man, I was stuck. I was down, but now I'm up. Yeah. It's all God, this ain't no love. Yeah. I used to be stuck in that mud. Yeah, I was down, but now I'm up. I was down, but now I'm down. Now I'm up like a seesaw. When I'm on a beat like an old man's lawn, better keep off from the ground.
You're listening to Forrest Frank and Connor Price. The song is Up.
Season 4 of The Chosen is in theaters now, and the reviews that count are in.
Amazing. Did not disappoint.
Flurry of emotions. It was powerful, heartbreaking, uplifting.
You have got to come and see it. It is a message for everybody. I highly recommend that you come out and see The Chosen Season 4.
Episodes 1 through 3 of The Chosen Season 4 are in theaters till February 14th. So visit thechosenriseup.com and get your tickets now. That's thechosenriseup.com for tickets today.
Okay, it's time for
Relevant Buzz.
Please welcome to the show our managing editor, Downtown Emily Brown. Hey, Emily.
Hey, y'all.
Tell us what's happening at the intersection of faith and culture this week.
Okay, we got to talk about TikTok. You've probably seen the news this week that the House of Representatives passed a bill banning TikTok. And as you hopefully remember from your high school government class, it's not a law yet. It's got to go to the Senate, then the president before that's official. So everyone, maybe let's take a deep breath here. But if it does pass, it won't actually ban the app. Instead, the bill forces the parent company of TikTok, known as ByteDance, to sell the platform within 6 months or have it banned, which is the big difference that we need to talk about.
So all the online, like it's a thing right now. Like before they ban TikTok, just let's all reminisce about our favorite videos. So that's not going to happen. I read that there's a number of U.S. companies lining up that Microsoft is the most likely to buy TikTok. But the reality is this bill, Claire, tell me if I'm wrong. This bill is going to require that if an app, a social media app that has more than 1 million users in the U.S. each month is owned by a foreign entity, that will be illegal. So they will have to divest of the app to a U.S.-owned company for security reasons.
Bringing jobs home. Can I say?
Basically, that's it.
Sort of, yeah. So the bill is called the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, which is the world's
rolls right off the
title.
tongue.
Stands for Star Labs.
It's an effective, I'll say this, effective name.
Cyberdyne.
But its goal is to go after social media apps controlled by foreign adversaries like ByteDance, which is a Chinese company. So supporters of the bill say this would protect Americans from having their user information manipulated by foreign adversaries. So it is what you're saying, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a U.S. based company. Like it could be someone from like the UK.
It just can't be an adversary. It can't be Russia, China.
There's kind of a bad list. We can't have those.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, I do. Here, I have a take on this. I don't know if it. I don't think the security thing is as like concerning because look, all companies are going to, your data's being bought and sold all the time. It just is, right?
Exactly.
I think it's more about the, like somehow on Reddit the other day, I ended up on like the Gen Z subreddit, and it was kind of a bummer. Just like every post was, and I'm not, trying to dump on Gen Z. And I know the subreddit isn't exactly the most representative thing, but there were so many pessimistic. Right. It was very pessimistic. And
pessimistic about what? About TikTok or what? What do you mean?
Just all the headlines were about loneliness, about the geopolitics, about the economy. There was very few that seemed very positive. And then I saw another study on some news aggregator site about, an increase in people's happiness that had deleted TikTok from their phone. It was particularly among Gen Zers. But we know, because there's been whistleblowers, that the Chinese Communist Party, who is involved with every company, especially large ones like ByteDance, influences the operations of those companies. They don't operate independent. There is no independent company in China, right? And we know that they have a vested interest in manipulating the algorithm to sow pessimism, to sow uncertainty, to sow disunity, to try to destabilize the United States. And I'm not making a direct correlation between, the fulfillment and it's anecdotal, but it is an interesting correlation that the most popular app among a certain subset seems to also express a degree of dissatisfaction with the world when they're consuming, because the content that, and we talked about this before, that we get in our country is different than what they get in China. It's very positive. Like they don't even have like visible tattoos and things like that are pretty inconsequential, but they promote, such a degree of wholesomeness on their version of TikTok compared to ours, which promotes pessimism and or sometimes just frivolousness. That I don't think it's a bad thing.
Here's a question I have: if TikTok gave America the TikTok that's in China, would it be popular?
I think that's a fair question,
because I feel like when you go look at like Instagram, especially X is awful.
Yeah, that's
X is just terrible. Like if you go look at some of these platforms, is it that their app is different, or is it that the way we're like the things we're drawn to over here because of our free speech? Is that one of the negative parts of free speech? Is everyone has opportunity to speak? Because X is owned by Elon, Meta, and their own, and they're, to me, I see the same apps for the most part.
But the interesting thing is, and I think your point is really interesting that you're making, Jesse, but that has nothing to do with why this bill exists. Right. This bill has nothing to do with Gen Z's mental health. This bill is specifically national security, data mining. And so that's why they're making it this arbitrary thing. And it's just TikTok being picked on and not X or whatever, because it's just the Chinese government getting our data.
Jesse, I do like that you bring up Gen Z, because that is predominantly TikTok's main audience is Gen Z.
Absolutely. I think this will be an ancillary benefit. I think what Jesse's pointing out is like, this will be a good thing ultimately, maybe, but that's not what the government's intending, so.
Right. But I wanted to point that out because right now, like I said, it passed through the House. It's going to the Senate next. A lot of experts actually think the Senate will hold up the bill until after the election because TikTok has a much younger fan base. Some politicians are concerned if they move forward with this bill, Gen Z is going to sway one way or the other. And so they are
politics as best.
They're going to wait till after the election.
And national security can wait. We need the votes, boy.
Yeah.
What's crazy about that is this bill was introduced on March 5th to the committee. March 7th, the committee passed it 50-0.
Oh, wow.
Which is unheard of 2 days later. And then now, the next week, the full House voted. A bill has never moved that fast in government history.
Yeah.
And so now for it to go over to the Senate should just sign off. Like there's bipartisan support. But the fact that somebody would try to manipulate it and slow it down because of an election, I mean, that's our government at work, right? But before Emily moves on, Derek, you mentioned how your ex experience is a cesspool. My ex experience is my best social media experience because it's only basketball and jokes and then those stupid ads. But you can curate it. You can, just eliminate the negativity.
So, I had deleted X. And when I got, I was like, you know what? I got to start getting back on this platform. I got a lot of followers on here. I hop back on there and it's just, all I see is just random videos. Like, it's not necessarily like, it's not curated. Like, I feel like my Instagram
That's
is
a
curated.
good way to explain it. Yeah.
I'll
run into murder.
Not that
I'm like, how?
Exactly.
Like,
I'm watching basketball.
Yeah.
And then, hey, this lady smacked her mom. It's like, what?
Yeah. Or like a boat accident or something.
They almost create like a rise out of you. It's always like, it'll be like last night I'm scrolling through TikTok and I'm on this page called "This Will Cure Your Depression." And it's like puppies. It's like the sweetest thing. I'm like 5 scrolling down and it's this guy like throwing his like wife in the street, like pushing her in the street, punching her, and then like going in his house. I'm like, why is that? I'm like, what if I'm like a little kid watching this dog?
Exactly.
And there's a guy pushing, it's like security cameras. So it's not like explicit, but it's like he's pushing his girl. And it's like, why? Why did I just see that? It's like fights. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's the best
way to say it.
That's the thing that kills me on X is like you might go into a thread that says, okay, these are the top anime fight scenes you've ever seen, and then you're scrolling down and the next thing you know it's a puppy and then it's an OnlyFans and you like, bro, like what, like why is someone putting something like that under a post like this doesn't make sense.
And then the most insane ring cam video you've ever seen.
That's the one. That's the one I saw. It was a ring camera. That's the one I was now thinking of. Yeah, like a guy's running behind his daughter. This guy and his.
I must have stumbled into innocent X because I don't see any of the stuff you're talking about.
Here's how we solve that.
Even inside of the threads?
I mean, I don't look at the comments. I mean, I'll be honest with you, or the threads. I just got my feed.
And that's why you're not seeing it.
Yeah.
That's why you're not seeing it. Because in the comments, people comment stuff that has nothing to do
Those
with
are the bots.
The thread. Like it's just
it's obsessed by bots right now.
I will be honest with you. I did get into the comments under some basketball stuff at one point, and then it was just like clearly bots and clearly like OnlyFans bots and crap. And it's just like, okay, this isn't even like a conversation. I clicked on the thread because I thought, oh wow, 356 comments. People are talking about this basketball news, and then it's just all automated junk. And I was like, okay, well, after that, I never looked at comments again.
Yeah,
I do have an idea. And Elon, I know he's a big fan. Is listening right now. Let's have a separate X just for ring cam videos because every thread I click on. It's bot weird ad like some spam and then just outrageous ring cam videos. Let's just put those in their own silo. And if you're in the mood to watch crazy ring cam videos of, like I said, the Chinese food delivery person fighting a dog, great. Here's a whole feed of stuff like that. I think that
has to be like a YouTube compilation somewhere. Like I'm sure someone has put like 3 hours worth of the craziest ring camera videos you could ever see.
Yeah.
I feel like you could easily waste an afternoon. But anyways, all right, we got to move on. I've got some news for my fellow singles out there. I can almost guarantee that you're going to meet your next significant other online. You will probably meet your next significant other online. Back in 2010, the number one way to meet someone was through friends. About 25% of people did that, and about 24% met their significant other online. 10 years later, 2020, 8% meet their significant other through friends, and 70% meet someone online. That's a huge jump.
Like dating apps? I've never been on one.
So not just dating apps. As someone who personally has wasted a lot of time on those don't really work out well. Most people, when they meet someone online, they mean that they met someone through social media. So like sliding into someone's DMs.
I mean, it just worked for Kristen Cavallari and that Montana boy. They slid into each other's DMs.
Yeah. So take your advice from a former Hills alum. Slide into those DMs, maybe you never know. Maybe you'll get to be TikTok famous.
We up.
Could work out.
We up.
Yeah. Sure.
I'm thinking like that is true. Like in my own experience, I met a girl at church, and then the other times it was just via social media. Like they reached out and we just started talking and stuff. That's interesting.
This is not permission to send creepy DMs or like be annoying. I want to put that out there for women because or for men listening, don't do that to women.
Okay, let me get back to the study. The study you said was that currently the people meeting their spouse or significant other, 75% of those couples are meeting online now.
70%, yes.
70% as opposed to.
70% are meeting online. The second highest was 8% meeting through friends. Like, it is shocking how much people, like, you're not meeting them through friends or family or work or the normal places that a lot of people maybe met someone. You're meeting them online.
How did y'all meet your significant others? Jesse, it was college, right?
Yep. Yeah. We were at the same college. Yeah.
College for you too, Derek. What about you, Marty?
I met her at a show. Concert.
Like, she was at a show for you.
Was she at the meet and greet?
No, she was. No. She was. The show was actually, Andy was performing in LA, and I was opening up, and she went with her friend who was a fan of like probably Andy or KB or somebody, and I saw her. She was eating nachos, and I was like, "Who's this girl who's eating all these nachos?" How it started. And then I actually, the crazy part is, from there I slipped into her DMs. So there's that.
Okay.
So I wonder if that's a thing. I wonder if that's a thing. I saw her,
met her, and then found her online, and that was it. We talked online.
I wonder if that's a thing, that you see the person and then you contact them through the internet.
It's safer than a phone number. I think that's what it felt like. It's like, hey, just follow me. I don't have to. There's no commitment there, or whatever. But to respond.
That checks out with the survey I saw. That number 1 was social media these days. Number 2 was nacho related interactions. Right. Number 3 was church. And that was
I have been to the Carey's house. And every time I've been to the Carey's house, a prominent part of the visit was nachos. So I'm assuming a big nacho family. So I'm assuming that that's what brought you and Dana together back in college, was probably some nacho action.
Nacho average couple. That's what we say. We
oh no.
Set up. You ready for that one? Setting you up.
Dad jokes on fleek, boy.
That was a bad dad joke.
That was great. It was great.
I literally had a friend come over with his kids one day, and he knew just from reputation, and he wore a shirt for the occasion of coming over our home that said Nacho Average Dad, in the expectation that he would be served nachos, which he was. Cameron knows. It's multiple nights a week, and they're not, and these are real nachos. These aren't just,
they're good nachos.
It's
like, what are you putting on them?
What aren't you putting on them? I mean, they're great.
Jalapenos have to be jalapenos.
Emily, we're going to have to offline this. We don't have time today. It's separate pod.
It's fantastic. There's pressure cookers involved. It's great. It's wonderful.
It's a whole thing.
All right. Well, now I want nachos, so we're gonna have to wrap this up.
They make their own chips.
The last thing I do want to talk about is something I actually really need to clear the air on, because as podcast listeners know, I took off last Friday and wasn't able to record with the guys. And I know y'all know that because the guys roasted me about it on Tuesday's podcast episode for taking a day off for the Olivia Rodrigo concert.
Derek wasn't part of that roasting.
We all felt like it was appropriate, didn't we? Didn't we all say it was appropriate?
Yeah.
I listened to the tone.
If it was Snoop Dogg, judgment, it's different. But because it was Olivia Rodrigo, we were like, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, we were on the
Derek,
same.
she literally had. This is what I was told when she put in, "Hey, I'm taking Friday off." This is what I was told when she said, "I'm taking Friday off." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. We'll just put it on the calendar, submit it on the whatever our HR platform." And I was like, "Why are you taking off?" She goes, "Oh, Olivia Rodrigo concert. My friend's coming in. We're going to a concert." I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." So on the show, I said she's not here today because tonight she's going to the Olivia Rodrigo concert. And so the guys were like, "Wow, she's pre-gaming all day for Olivia Rodrigo. Yeah. That's amazing." So they took it as positive.
Getting her hair done, getting a new outfit. Right. We just assumed that you were getting ready for the show.
It actually got me. What was it? Marty asked, like, what would be the thing that was so important, such a big deal that you had plans that night? Yes. That you take the day off work.
Yes.
And I thought about that because we didn't answer your question on the show, Marty. For me, it would be an Orlando Magic playoff game. Like, I would need to get ready all day. You know what I mean?
Also, just getting there, the traffic, the things that would take time,
And when you get your buddies and you're going to go out to sports bar that afternoon and you're just getting ready and amped up because this is going to be something you're going to remember for years. You know what I mean? I would do that. So I get it, Emily. We weren't making fun of you.
I just want to clarify, that is not why I took the day off. Like, I'm not above taking a day off for a concert.
We made the reason and then also justify your reason for you. Emily, and it wasn't even the right reason. Let's go.
It wasn't, because the concert wasn't until Saturday. I took Friday off because my friend was flying in town.
I totally got it wrong.
My pet raccoon died. Oh, I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
We were told that, Emily, we were told that offline and just chose to disregard it. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
This is great.
But I do want to say, if I had taken the day off for concert, which I'm not above, but I wouldn't do it then, I would be in good company because other people also take days off for the things they love. Like March Madness fans who already are planning on skipping work and canceling plans to watch the NCAA tournament.
Well, that's because it's on during the day. Like during the work day.
True.
It is.
Oh,
but
so
back in the day, Jesse,
because it's sports, not pop music.
Well, no, because it directly conflicts with the
people would watch it at their office. I remember people would like sneak it on their laptop, or they would in the break room or whatever. They didn't take off work for it. Now it's like, we're just taking the week off.
They just work through it. Yeah.
Now, literally, that's what this study came out was like this huge number of people are like just already planning to take off work.
There's like a new poll. 26% of fans have already asked off for work to watch some part of the game.
A quarter of the American workforce is not showing up.
Yeah. No construction will be done that day.
It directly conflicts. It's not like, later tonight, I'm getting ready for later. It's like, it's on at like 1 p.m, you know?
Jesse, are you going to take off to watch it? You're a basketball fan.
I may. I will be. I will say this. I have. Cameron, you met one of my buddies, my good friend Daniel. He has a guys' weekend every year where a bunch of guys go to like a beach house and just kind of hang out. It was strategically scheduled for March Madness weekend so that we have an excuse to sit in and watch basketball for the entire weekend. So that will. So
you're at the beach, so you can sit inside watching basketball. Nice.
Exactly, precisely. It sounds great. Sounds perfect.
Have you made your bracket yet?
Selection Sunday is this upcoming weekend, but I will. Yeah.
Right, I gotta make mine because I always make mine based on like vibes. Absolutely no stats are involved.
Wait. What do you mean? What do you mean vibes?
I just read the name and I'm kind of like, I like that name, or I don't like that name.
I like Drake better than Villanova, so I'm going to pick Drake.
Got it.
Kind of a thing. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, that's the vibe. My friends and I, we do it, and I would say one person in our group is actually sports knowledgeable. The rest of us, absolutely not. We just want to be a part of something. So I pick based on vibes. I have a friend who picks based on colors. One of my friends, she did pretty good last year. She told us she was like looking at the teams when we were talking about making it, and we were like, oh, you're like getting into the stats. That's awesome. She was looking for the hottest players, and that's how she picked her bracket. But she did pretty good. So it's a good strategy.
I love it.
My favorite, though, is one of our friends. We looked at her bracket and we were like, you picked all underdogs. Like, what's going on here? Yeah. She didn't realize that the seed number was not the number of games that the team had won. That's what she thought they won. So like the 16 seed, she was like, oh, they've won 16 games. Oh, wow. So I'm going to pick them.
Awesome. So there's a shocking amount of one-win teams who somehow skirted into the tournament this year.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's how she did. And shocking, she got dead last. So
I remember every year around after the Sweet 16, it turns out after, 9 million brackets on ESPN.com, there's like one that's correct, sort of a thing. And they'll track that person down and interview the person on ESPN. And I remember it was a lady a couple years ago, and they were like, how did you pick all these upsets? How's your bracket perfect up to this point? And she said, I literally picked mascots. Like she was just thinking this mascot would beat that mascot. She's like, I haven't watched a game of college basketball all year.
The Orlando Magicians. She's like, they were my one choice.
They'll put a spell on everybody. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought you were going to report on the royal family and photoshopping, but instead you went with some internal beef.
I asked if I could, but it's too much. I got to do a separate podcast for it.
Yeah, it's releasing on the same feed as the Nacho Pod. It's all the adjacent content that people are hungry for.
It's actually just the Relevant Podcast goes conspiratorial, and like we just talk about all of our favorite conspiracies. Yeah. I would listen personally. Yeah, let us know in the comments if you want one.
The Kate-spiracy episode.
Jesse's Corner.
The Kate-spiracy. Oh my gosh. All right.
That's awesome.
Well, there's more where that came from. Check out relevantmagazine.com every weekday where we're covering the intersection of faith, culture, and everything in between. Thanks, Emily. Stay tuned. Up next, Eugene Cho joins us. You're listening to Crooked Kings. The song is Memory Loss. Hey, if you like this podcast, but you might like it better if there were no ads, you can do that. Head over to relevantmagazine.com and sign up for Relevant Plus. For just a couple bucks a month, you get this podcast ad-free. You get ad-free unlimited reading at relevantmagazine.com, including the full podcast and magazine archives, our beautifully designed digital issue, and a little more. Check out all the info right there on the Relevant Plus tab at relevantmagazine.com. Well, our guest today is Eugene Cho. As I mentioned earlier, as the political season's gearing up this year, social media is running rampant with a lot of heated conversations already. So we wanted to talk to him because he wrote a book called Thou Shalt Not Be a Jerk, A Christian's Guide to Engaging Politics. We want to talk about how we as Christians should interact with politics and each other moving forward in a peaceful and productive way. Imagine that. Here's our conversation with Eugene Cho.
You know, I recently read a report that a lot of young voters in particular are disengaging with politics because they either feel incredibly overwhelmed or incredibly apathetic about our political system. What would you say to someone who feels that way?
I feel you. I resonate. I understand, right? I mean, I think if we're just being honest, it's not just the political landscape. I think there's just a larger feel, a larger ethos in our culture, and it feels overwhelming. And I can't put my finger on one thing. Like, you know, we can't blame one thing as the reason why it feels like there's a larger overwhelming exhaustion and cynicism within our larger society. But I want to just name it and acknowledge it and maybe even affirm it. Like, we're all human. So I'm not going to be on this podcast with you and shame people and say this is a horrible perspective. Been there, and sometimes I wrestle with that as well. I resonate with the very, very important words of Jesus Christ. All those who are burdened and heavy laden and exhausted and cynical and weary, come unto me. And so let's regularly make sure that our relationship with God through Jesus and the presence of the Holy Spirit, let's continue to make sure that despite sometimes the transgressions or the ailments or the challenges within church or Christendom or our political leaders or our society and the polarization, all of those things are real. We can name it and acknowledge it, but let's make sure that those things do not supersede our reliance and dependence on what it means to be a follower of Jesus in a broken and fallen world. There's a theologian by the name of Eugene von Rad, I believe is his name. And one of the things that he says, and he was a theologian from Princeton early in the century who introduced us to a phrase that I hear more and more people use, Gerhard von Rad. And this phrase is the kingdom here and not yet. So for us as Christians, we believe that the kingdom is here, but it's not fully materialized. Another modern translation, this is my Eugene Cho translation of this brilliant theologian, is tension. Welcome to the world of tension. And so I think what people are feeling is this constant tension. And I don't know about you or other listeners, I don't like tension. I like smooth and clean and perfection. I like nicely compartmentalized things, but we're living in this state of tension. So I want to just name it and acknowledge it because we're all human. But I would also say to people, it matters. It matters that we stay engaged. It matters that we remain people of hope. It matters not just to us, but it matters to our neighbors. And we have to just acknowledge that It's not perfection. It's not bliss. When people ask me, who are you voting for? What are the things that matter to you? I reject the idea of a single issue voter. I reject the idea of just voting straight along party lines. I think it makes us lazy. We've got to think. We've got to engage. We've got to ask hard questions. We've got to pray. We've got to discern. We've got to wrestle with people's policies, their history, their character, their integrity. We've got to ask about their vision and imagination of what they envision, not just for me, but for others, including those who are vulnerable in our society. And it's very complex, but it does matter. It matters to kind of this ethic of the whole life sanctity of life. If we want to just be honest, it matters to everybody. For Bread for the World, as we're talking right now about the 41 million American neighbors who are struggling with issues of hunger because they're on SNAP. For the 7 million women and children who are influenced and impacted in positive ways by the Women, Infant, and Children program. For the 5 billion people that have received, or 5 billion meals that have been served by the McGovern-Dole feeding program over its history of decades around the world. For the 45 million children around the world who suffer and struggle with something called wasting, where their body literally is withering away because of hunger and lack of nutrition in their bodies. It matters. And so not only how we vote matters, but we're also engaging our elected leaders in a broken system, but engaging our leaders to do that which is moral and compassionate and just, and to encourage them to engage our governance in a more civic or civil, a more hostile, a more accessible way, I think are some of the things that I would encourage folks that are struggling with exhaustion and cynicism.
I think a lot of times political conversations can be really tense because we hold certain issues close to us, right? Like immigration or the economy or whatever you want to fill in the blank. What are some ways we can make sure we're not prioritizing our opinions over our relationships with people?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, I think what I would say is let's not forget to be connected to God. Let's make sure that we're not abdicating spiritual engagement and wellness to someone else. That is something that we do even once a week, right? I think this is something that we've got to be engaging in on a regular basis. But let's also make sure that we understand and stay connected to the commandment to love our neighbors. And this is challenging, but let's just name that when Jesus says to love your neighbors, there's a reason why he's constantly using examples and stories of people and relationships that didn't always, wasn't always interpreted as these are lovable people or people that automatically think like you. And to love our neighbors is to love everyone, but that includes people that don't always look like us, think like us, feel like us, worship like us, even vote like us. Dun, dun, dun. But it's challenging. So I would do that. And this is what I mean by we should be doing these things and not just during election season. So I think that's really hard. It's like, I think fellow Christians like myself, if we say, let's share about the gospel and let's talk about evangelism. And the only time we talk with our neighbors is to invite them to church. If that's the only time that we engage our neighbors, let's just be honest, something's a little bit off, right? And so when we're talking about loving our neighbors, if the only time we're engaging our neighbors is to argue about whatever particular hot topic issue of that time. So just keep that in mind. This is a whole life thing. It's an ongoing thing about what it means to be a follower of Jesus. But I think speaking about relationships, the art of neighboring, let's make sure that even as we should feel the level of freedom to articulate what we're feeling, to listen to others, to acknowledge that I suspect there's always going to be an opportunity to affirm another person, to affirm where they're coming from and to affirm their position, even if you don't disagree, even if you don't agree with much of it or all of it, but there's an element of affirmation. To also make sure that, I think part of what it means to pray for people is to literally pray for people. To pray for our political leaders, to pray for our election, and to pray for our neighbors. And I want to make sure that as I'm speaking with people, I want to speak with honesty and eloquence and humility and boldness and with conviction. But my aim in life is not to crush people. It's not to shame people. It's not to dismiss people. It's not make someone or some situation into a viral moment, except this interview here. So I think those things come to mind for me. And when we're talking about Jesus, our Lord and Savior, I really think we're not fully understanding how scandalous the nature of his ministry, his presence, and the kingdom imagination he ushers us into. And just think about the disciples that he gathers. These are people that did not belong in the same room. Think about the people that he engages and welcomes, whether it's the Samaritan woman at the well, whether it's lepers, whether it's Pharisees, whether it's zealots, whether it's Zacchaeus, the tax collector, likely, in my opinion, one of the most vilified people in that society. Think about Jesus washing the feet of his very own disciples, including a man that he knew was going to betray him for 30 coins. Not easy. It's really hard following Jesus. But Jesus is my Lord and Savior, and so I'm trying to keep that in mind and heart during what we know will be contentious, challenging, emotional times.
That was Eugene Cho. Make sure to check out his book, Thou Shalt Not Be a Jerk, A Christian's Guide to Engaging Politics. It's out now, wherever you get your books. All right, stay tuned. Up next, it's your feedback.
Around the room, hoping God would come through. I need that good news soon. It's so hard to smile when they all depending on you.
You're listening to The Young Escape and Marty. The song is Thank You. It's a good one, man. Today's show is brought to you in part by The Chosen. Season 4 of The Chosen is coming to theaters nationwide on February 1st, and this season has everything. Clashing kingdoms, rival rulers, and when they're threatened by the reality of Jesus' growing influence, religious leaders do the unthinkable, choose to ally themselves with the Romans. As the seeds of betrayal are planted in opposition to Jesus' message turns violent, he's left with no alternative but to demand his followers rise up. So get ready, Relevant Podcast listeners. February 1st is the big release day. Go get your tickets now at thechosenriseup.com. All right, it's time for your feedback. Last week, Emily was on and we were talking about irrational fears. She's watching 30 Rock. Tina Fey talks about being a single woman alone in New York and choking to death on a sandwich in her kitchen. And that's how she's going to die. Nobody would find her. So like that came up. That we were talking about irrational fears of how you're going to die. We want to know your irrational fear. So you hit us up on X at Relevant Podcast. And here's a couple of our favorites.
Derek, reading these real quick and we'll go through them. I think I've seen each one of these happen in an X video recently in my feed. Like literally each of these scenarios I've actually seen happen on a ring cam on X. So
and look, and all of these are coming from X. So like we're right. X is seeding all this craziness. Like this.
Let's go through.
Sarman says, "Clowns sneaking up behind me in broad daylight." You've definitely seen that in a comment section on X. That's happened. Absolutely.
Anna says, getting my hair stuck in a cardboard compactor at work. I don't think it's possible for it to happen, but I still worry. I've seen enough industrial accident videos via surveillance camera on X these days that I can tell you it's possible.
Yes, for sure.
I'm sorry.
It's possible. Flattened out. It's the worst thing ever.
These are rational. These are definitely rational fears.
I clicked on a thread about a triple double the other night and saw one of the most horrific industrial accidents I've ever seen. So trust me, this is plausible.
Here's Amy. Every time I pick up a knife or pair of scissors, I'm afraid I'll fall and stab myself. Listen, on X, you could find that right now. Somebody stabbed himself right there, and he's like going to the hospital. It's just like, hey, whatever.
You can
my
click
jaw's on the floor. Y'all's X experience is so different from mine.
You can click on an innocent. You can click on
I was scrolling through a video. I was scrolling through a video of I think it was like rap comments. Like it was like something about like the Diddy stuff or whatever. You know, people talking about that. And I'm scrolling up, and there's a guy in an iron lung.
Yeah, I saw that one.
I
saw that one. Yeah.
Why is this on a feed? Like, why is this video? This man half dead in an iron lung.
He looks like Shrek.
I was clicking on an innocent Kate-spiracy thread the other night.
Conspiracy, I'm lost.
Kate Middleton is missing. The princess, the UK princess.
Yeah. Oh, I was reading about the latest theories, and in the thread, unrelated, is a guy leaning back over a kitchen island at a party with a hot dog hanging out of his mouth, and his buddy has a katana blade, and he goes to slice the hot dog. And hits the guy in the nose. Have you seen the nose video?
Yes, I have seen that video.
I didn't sign up for that. I didn't sign up for that. I signed up for Kate-spiracies, and I'm watching a hot dog sword stunt go wrong.
Yeah.
They gotta lock down these bots. I don't feel like there's as many bots on like Instagram comments or anything like that. So like, why are they so bad on X?
And I have
because Elon is on his free speech thing, man. Like he's like everybody should have opportunity to say something.
Murder.
I'm like, bro, I don't want to see.
I had the highest level of like security too. Like I don't see anything explicit. Everything's blocked. Still, I'm seeing a fight vid. It's like, hey, Sharkeisha Part 2, and there's a girl punching this white girl in the face. I'm like, what the heck is going on here?
Every bot should be able to say whatever they want in this country. Every bot.
That's like your Barb. That's your beehive. You know, Jesse's beehive. It's the bot.
And it's the same video under multiple posts. Have y'all noticed that too? Like there's certain videos that they put in there under multiple posts. Like there's this video of this white guy watching this little black kid in Africa.
Oh, I see that one.
Someone it's like he's like, oh, this is so beautiful, and he's pouring like water on this black kid's head.
What?
And I'm like, bro, what is this,
What's going on?
Like, bro,
I want to live.
Exactly,
I want to live in a world.
Same thing. Yeah, exactly. What's going on is the question.
Every spam bot has the inalienable right to post whatever outrageous videos they want. That is what this country is about. Every spam bot. We're not going to restrict it.
Has a voice.
What I'm going to do is I'm just going to scroll up on my X, and I'm just going to pick a random thing, and I bet you that video's in there.
All right. That'll do it for your feedback. It's time for this week's
editorial question of the week.
All right. Well, we're going to pivot a little bit. It's spring break. People are traveling right now, and I'm seeing a lot of videos of people, I guess because I'm Orlando, of people like at the theme parks this week, just miserable. It is like packed shoulder to shoulder, like and Disney, like people can't move. It's just a molasses of people just oozing everywhere. It's just gross. Why anybody would come to Orlando during a spring break?
Why would you use that descriptor, Cameron? That was a terrible
I like it. Humanity just oozing through the theme parks. Just it looks horrible. Just sticky, hot. People are rubbing up on you, nasty. Why anybody would spend money to do that, I have no idea. Anyway, got us thinking about terrible spring break trip experiences, vacation experiences. Tell us, we want to know your worst vacation trip experience. It stands out. It was traumatizing. It was not fun, whatever it was. Hit us up on X at Relevant Podcast. Don't read the comments. And wherever else you see us post this question. And we'll read our favorites on next week's show.
When I was 17, my parents had me work at my grandma's house and my aunt and uncle's house. So for spring break, I built a sprinkler system. You know, it was not good. And then that was one part of it. And then on top of it, like, you know, you're 17, you want to play video games. There's nothing there except for VHS And so it was a really rough 2 weeks. So
it's a pretty rough spring break.
No beach, no nothing. I built a sprinkler system without gloves on.
Did you at least get to run through it at the end?
No, and then with irrigation didn't come in. No water was pumping through. It was just me and holes, literally building a hole, Mr. George style.
You might win the worst spring break that I've heard.
It was pretty bad.
I
remember really telling my parents and them not realizing, we didn't want you doing that. Did they pay you? No one paid me. I just worked this labor. It was awful.
Dude.
Yeah.
Hey, summer break. It wasn't spring break, but same thing. I had grandma, and then she just put me to work in the field.
She
cooked.
I was
shucking peas and shucking corn and like peeling peas and stuff. And like it's like manual labor all day long at grandma's house.
Yeah, why? I'm like, I felt like Happy Gilmore, where it's like, now your fingers are gonna hurt. You just pulled landscaping duty. Like it just, my back was hurting. I'm 16. I want to run around and see people who are my age instead I'm in a different state. And I don't know anybody, and it's sticky. It's a bad type of hot. It was bad.
Well, hit us up and tell us your worst vacation memories as well. Okay. All right. Well, before we wrap things up, I want to thank Eugene Cho for joining us today. Make sure to check out his book, Thou Shalt Not Be a Jerk, A Christian's Guide to Engaging Politics. And after you've read it, give it to your parents or your pastor or the elders at your church. Anyway, just get it, share it. Also, make sure to check out the new issue of Relevant. It's available now over at relevantmagazine.com. It's presented for free thanks to The Covenant, which is available now on Apple TV. The issue features pieces with Rainn Wilson, Brooke Ligertwood, Need to Breathe, Mike Todd, a whole bunch of others. Check it out. It's all available for free. Also, check out Relevant Plus. It's the ad-free, enhanced way to experience our content. All the information is right there at the website, relevantmagazine.com. All right, on that note, we'll wrap it up. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Carey.
I'm Derek Miner.
I'm Marty.
We'll see y'all on Tuesday. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
Nacho average couple.
Relevant Podcast Network.